Hi, Al Williams here. I've been playing with Chat GPT's custom GPTs since I finally sprung and got pro, and I thought I would share a little bit about what I've been doing. Might give you some ideas. I got to this screen by going to Explore GPTs and then clicking on My GPTs, but of course yours will be different because these are mine. You would have to search for them by name or use some of the links below to get to them. This is one I did a while back being a Star Trek fan, and it's really kind of a just knows about the Star Trek universe. It's kind of tongue in cheek, and of course tries to treat it as though it were real. So if you were to say something like, well, it's one of the suggestions there. What is James Kirk's serial number? I'm a pretty good fan, but I don't know that by heart. So it's going to think. You notice it's kind of answers like it's maybe a Vulcan. Fascinating inquiry, Captain. And it gives you the number. Um, you know, what else could you ask it? I don't know. Who is the Horda? We'll see how it does with that. I don't think I've tried that one before. And it says, fascinating. Silicon-based life form, reproductive cycle. So it's pretty knowledgeable about things like that. And it will throw in things like it's like nothing we've ever seen before, Captain. So the prompt for this, I actually developed this on a different AI engine. And let's see, will it show me the prompt here? I think so, yeah. So it's fairly involved and it's been refined over several times. You will offer all responses as a logical alien being. You will frequently use the word fascinating and often mention it's like nothing we've ever seen before. You'll call me captain and often mention how logical you are. You will answer questions in the context of Star Trek, the television show, where possible. However, you will not use the phrase Star Trek or Star Trek universe in your responses. I'll let you read the rest of it. But at the very beginning of putting this prompt together, it would say silly things like, well, in the TV show Star Trek, which was aired in 1967 or whatever. And so I wanted it to not do that. I kind of wanted it to be like an in story sort of thing. So it's very easy to do this. There's a couple of ways you can do these. This one I did this way because, like I say, I did it a completely different way to begin with. But this configure lets you set a name. You can set a picture. Dally drew that picture, but you can actually put whatever you want in there. If you click, you can say, well, I want to upload a photo or I want to use Dally. Um, that's just the Dally picture. I've got a description, the prompt, which it calls instructions, and you can add conversation starters. That's those things that show up over here. And you can also upload files, and you can also give it different capabilities yourself. So you can tell it you want web browsing or DALI image generation, or you can say allow the GPT to run code so that it can do things like analyze data, work with files, stuff like that. That's the basic stuff you need to fill out. Now you can also create actions, and I haven't really gotten into that yet, but the actions basically let you go into a different thing. So if you say, I want to give you access to the weather, for example, there's an example of that, and it makes some JSON and knows how to go get weather from a particular place and things like that. So there's a lot of material you can read about that. I have not used it myself. Obviously, you've got to have some web API that you can get to, and you've got to be able to authenticate to it. So that means you need an API token or a password or whatever. The other way to do that is a lot more interesting. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to save this. And you'll notice when you do save it, though, you can save it for only you, for anybody that's got a link, or for everybody. And you can put it to a different category if you like. I'm not going to do that because I kind of messed around with things. I don't want to mess with it. So I'm just going to go back, maybe. And let's look at one that's a little different. So Hackaday Explorer, that lets you do things like how can I build a simple robot using an Arduino? So it tells you that it's going to go search, and because I obviously checked the allow to do web searches, It's going to go search the Hackaday website for that sort of thing, and it's going to give us some references. So pretty cool. You can click on the little thing here to actually get to the Hackaday article. And then, of course, what's nice is you could ask it more questions. So you could say, like, for number 3, what parts do I need, or something like that. And it'll at least attempt to answer that. So rather than belabor that, let's look at how that one was built. You can do a edit GPT. Now, again, this is the configure, but you'll notice the instructions are a little strange. And the reason is I didn't write this prompt. I went to create, and it actually lets you just tell it what you want to do, and it creates the prompt for you. So, for example, let me look back here. I talk about it should retrieve articles from Hackaday. It should focus on efficiently browsing the site, understanding the structure of the website. GPT should avoid accessing or referencing content from other sources or websites, emphasizing only content from Hackaday. It should guide the user through specifying their search queries. It should not make assumptions about the user's intentions. So it wrote a lot of this for me, and what will happen is you'll say something like, I want to search Hackaday for this. And so then you go try it over on this side. And when it does stuff and you go, I didn't want it to go look at something else, then you can say, go back over there and say, don't look at other websites, and it'll change the prompt in order to fix that. You can say, like, don't assume that we don't want, if I wanted to say always include a project link, for example, and you can do things like that. So here I might say, I want to also search Hackaday IO in addition to Hackaday.com. So you just tell it what you want to do, just like if you were talking to a person, right? And it'll go over here and say, I'm going to update it. And it'll take a second, of course. And if I go to configure now, you'll see that it should have added something to that. Well, it didn't. So that's interesting. Maybe because I haven't saved it yet. So, maybe because it's still updating. Let's see. Is that right? Or did it not? No, I guess because I haven't saved it yet. So every time I go back over here, it updates it. But I can go here now and say something like, how can I build, there's something wrong with it. Okay, so I'm going to have to re-record this, I guess. Well, let's see. It's trying again. Maybe I won't have to re-record it. I haven't seen it do this before. I have seen it where it just overloads. Yeah, persistent technical issue. Okay, so that's not, but normally that would work. I've seen it have issues where, like, it can't make the DALL-E picture, and it just gets in a loop where it says, well, I can't make the picture. Are you okay with that picture? Would you like to try another one? And you say, yeah, try another one. It says, I can't make the picture. Are you okay with it now? So we'll go to another one. We'll go to Hobby Electronics Explorer. I think that's, or Hobby Electronic Projects, sorry. And so I might say, how can I make an analog computer? And so it's going to do some research, and you'll notice, gee, look, it's making a Hackaday search, but it's also going to search other things. So look, now it's searching Hackaday IO because this one's set up to do that, but it also searches several other sites. It'll search, I think, Instructables, and I forget what else, but it's several different sites that it'll go through. And once it finds enough, it will kind of go in and say, okay, here's the particular articles. Now, I will confess, I have the prompt set to kind of favor Hackaday IO and Hackaday, but it will, in fact, find other things other than Hackaday and Hackaday IO projects. So I'll let you imagine what that prompt looks like. It's very similar, but here's the one. And of course, now they obviously are having some sort of capacity issue or something. We're having problems with Chat GPT, but you can see where that was going. But here's one I'm particularly pleased with, and I think rather than do it, I'm going to show you the prompt, but I'm just going to show you a previous chat with it. Let me see if I can find it here. It's probably this one. Is that one? Yeah. So here it comes up, and you can speak to it in Spanish, assuming you're trying to learn Spanish. What you can do, and it says it in the instructions, is you can put English words in phrases in brackets. And so it'll say, well, okay, here's some corrections for you. You didn't put anything in brackets, so I don't have to translate anything. And it says, well, your Spanish is good because it's not, but it's trying to be polite. And it says, well, you should have put an accent mark on estás. And, so then it talks to you. It says something, and you say something back. And oddly enough, just by mistake, I know better, but I misspelled intento, which is I'm trying, and or I try, and so it knew that that was a misspell. I thought that was very interesting, and then it responds. Like here, I said, mi historia es science fiction, because I really didn't know how to say science fiction. So then the first thing in its response is science fiction, ciencia ficción, I guess. I don't know. I'd have to think about how to pronounce that. Ciencia ficción. I don't know. Don't correct my Spanish pronunciation. I'm sensitive enough. And then it does, in fact, mention that I forgot that problema is masculine, even though it ends in A. And I kind of knew that, but I'd forgotten. And then it responds. And so then we just went on and on talking about different things. And it even knows things like, well, okay, you shouldn't have said me encanta mucho Merida. You should say me encanta Merida. It's more natural. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty well done. It made up. I told it, and I'll show you the prompt for this. I told it that it lived in Merida and it was named Juan, but it made up that it has a job as a professor of literature at the university and things like that. So it's pretty conversational, and it's much more than you would expect from the simple prompt. Let me bring up the prompt for that. And again, this was not done in the create because I wanted very fine control over it. So it says, you're a man named Juan who is a native Spanish speaker. You live in Merida, Mexico. Beautiful city, by the way. We will converse as casual acquaintances. I will write mostly in Spanish. And it kind of goes on from there. And I give it some examples. You will respond in 3 different sections. One of the things that's really tough to do is getting it to not answer everything in Spanish or everything in English. And so it was tough to, I had to reinforce several times. Remember, in this second section, you must use English. Finally, you will respond to my conversation using Spanish. Also, if you respond with a single question mark, it'll translate itself to English. But honestly, if you've got Google Translate and stuff, that's really all you need. So that's kind of it. It's really simple to do. I think the actions would be a little more complicated. And like I say, I haven't dove into that yet. But that's pretty amazing, especially this one, I think, is something I've tried to do with lesser engines and not had as good a result with. But pretty awesome, and I'm interested to see what other people have come up with. And if you have any suggestions for mine to make them better, drop me a note. So anyway, thanks for watching.